Huge news coming from the Indiana Fever. Disturbing news coming from the Indiana Fever. I think I was maybe one of the very first people to actually see this in, our little world. Shout out to both Evelyn and Coach Anderson who messaged me with it immediately to make sure I saw it, be like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Unfortunately, as some of you know, and I say time to time, I'm not always able to be timely with what we might call breaking news and breaking stories, and I know it costs me a ton of views because of it, but real life, real work that pays the bills gets in the way at times. I was really frustrated that I wasn't able to do this video for you yesterday, but here we are. I still think it's a big, important story worth talking about, even if I'm a little late. Thank you all for being here. Truly appreciate it. Welcome back. It means so much that you're here. We are, I now think now actually fewer than 100 subscribers from 20. Oh man, I'm dreaming. I'm getting ahead of myself. 16,000 subscribers, 16,000 strong for the 19. So thank you all for that. Truly do appreciate it. Do me a quick favor, like, comment, subscribe. YouTube did their thing the other day. I was talking about it with some other YouTubers because we're like, hey, what happened? We have our videos did well. We got subscribers on them, but our subscriber night number dropped overnight. YouTube is unsubbing people again. So please, if you have been subscribed, just take a look and make sure you still are. I appreciate it. So anyway, what is this huge news that you probably have already heard? Scott Agnes has had his credentials revoked from the Indiana Fever. Why is this a huge deal? Well, a few reasons. First of all, I believe Scott is the longest tenured beat reporter covering the Indiana Fever. And what is really crazy, and yeah, I'm going to defend him. I've been extremely critical of him because he, as much as anyone, has seemed very much to be just a stenographer for the Indiana Fever. But again, as I always say, man, I'm going to do my best to be fair, regardless of what I have said about someone for something specific. Scott Agnes did not deserve to have his credentials revoked. Period. This is really disturbing that the Indiana Fever did this. And here is why, which makes it so much worse, which also makes it, to be fair, I got to take a step back and say, maybe for some of them, maybe like Scott, I'm just a little bit hard on how they cover the Fever because it very well may not be their fault. What do I mean about that? Well, Scott did his job. The Indiana Fever completely screwed up, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? This is Mao's China, my friend. This is Stalin's Russia. This is Pol Pot's Cambodia. This is Castro's Cuba." I avoided that one guy because, we're not allowed to say things about him, and media and education has done a great propaganda job. But anyway, Scott, if you remember, Scott was really kind of the first person that broke the whole Caitlin's out. Caitlin's not going to play in that game. It is a load management thing. He had a source that he felt was a very, very good source, and he stands by that. And we know that the Indiana Fever, man, right? We know how much they bungled that whole situation. We know that they then sent out Caitlin Clark to the media to cover and spin for the Fever front office. And a lot of people think, well, I should say the Stephanie White simps and the Indiana Fever simps, like, oh, Caitlin was so annoyed because Caitlin's annoyed with her fans. It's always when Caitlin seems annoyed, she's annoyed with her fans. She wasn't annoyed with her fans. She was annoyed with how the Indiana Fever handled the situation. And she was annoyed with the fact that the Indiana Fever were going to put her out in front to explain and spin the situation to cover for their complete incompetence. That is why she was pissed off. That is why she made those comments about, hey, do you know what I want to have for breakfast and all that? She wasn't mad at her fans. It is perfectly normal when a superstar may or may not be in an upcoming game and you're getting conflicting reports because that's who you spent money to see, and they wanted to know and had a right to know what the heck was going on. Caitlin Clark was pissed at being used by the Indiana Fever. Now, a little history with Scott in his favor category. Y'all remember that ankle injury from last year that had apparently been going on for a few weeks that none of us knew about, no one knew about, completely unknown. Oh, and also Aaliyah's whole meniscus tear, would have just remained a leg injury. Those are the things that came from Scott Agnes. So why did the Indiana Fever let him know? Because Scott Agnes, as much as I have criticized him for being a stenographer for the Indiana Fever more than anyone else, was doing his job. And the Indiana Fever said, no, no, we can't have that. Scott Agnes knows where too many bodies are buried. Scott Agnes knows what he is doing. Scott Agnes can expose the grotesque incompetence of the Indiana Fever front office. Y'all understand this is a tyrannical cabal of entitled, snotty, narcissistic, bratty, vindictive, controlling WNBA old guard women. I don't think there's a straight one among them. I don't think there is one among them who has earned their spot, whether it's Amber Cox, Kelly Kroskoff, Lynn Dunn, Stephanie White. They've all been installed, nothing earned. They're all participation trophy victimhood appointees to their positions. They've never actually had to fight for and earn a damn thing. And y'all women out there, listen to me. This is important. I know I might get myself in trouble, but no, this is because, again, someone who's been in women's sports most of their life and wants to see women's sports do very well and is a huge fan of women's softball, women's tennis, women's soccer. Of course, you all know that. And I would love to see women's basketball succeed. But y'all are going backward when you allow people like those involved in the Indiana Fever to take positions of authority because they screw up so spectacularly, as we are seeing with these people with the Indiana Fever, that they're setting the rest of you back frickin' centuries. Because who the hell wants to put a woman in charge of a basketball operation when they look at the Indiana Fever? And again, I'm saying that because I know how there are so many good ones out there. So why don't we give the good ones a chance? I mean, coaching wise, Sandy Brondello comes to mind, right? I keep saying what a lot of these teams need, and you're seeing it, by the way, effectively, quietly. It's not being talked about, are male head coaches. But that doesn't mean there aren't women that can't do this job and do it damn well. And Sandy Brondello is one of them. Stephanie White is certainly not. This stuff with Scott, and he explained it a little bit. I think I have, because he wrote an article to let people know, for subscribers and Fever fans, that he has been informed via email that his credentialed access for all team events has been revoked. They said it was due. Check this out, man. These people piss me off. Absolute scumbags. They said it was due to the spread of inaccurate and unsubstantiated information and cited my tweet about this. Is Scott, I'm reading it. Cited my tweet about Caitlin Clark being ruled out 100 minutes before they defeated the Portland Fire on May 20th. Scott's tweet was accurate. Okay. I want to be very, very, very clear about that. Scott's tweet was accurate. The Indiana Fever didn't take away his credentials for the spread of inaccurate and unsubstantiated information. They took away his credentials because he did his job well. And by doing his job well, he exposed their absolute, complete incompetence and the fact that they cannot do their jobs because they should not have their jobs, because they are not qualified for their jobs. I don't know how anyone can watch what goes on with the Indiana Fever and think differently than that. Stop simping for these, you content creators that are getting checks from the Indiana Fever. No, I don't know that. I'm going over the top to make a point. I don't know that they're getting checks, but man, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I'm just saying, because otherwise I don't know why they're out there constantly attacking Caitlin Clark fans and sipping for this disgusting Indiana Fever organization. Anyway, let's keep going. Fever PR briefly spoke with Scott before the game to ask about the tweet and state that they believed it was false. However, there was no meeting or further conversation before the decision to revoke his credentialed access was communicated to him. So I don't mess it up. I'm reading it as Scott's writing it for these bits. Okay, so I'm reading Scott. He's saying this, not me. In my response, I told the organization that I stand by my reporting and the intent behind it. The reporting in question was not behind a paywall. It was available to anyone who wanted to read it. It was based on information from a trusted league source. The story provided additional details and was updated before tip off to include head coach Stephanie White's pregame comments. Keep that in mind. These are Stephanie White's words. Here is a portion of that story that we're going to check out, right? Clark was visible at practice on Tuesday, but White said Clark did not participate. She got treatment yesterday and went through workouts after practice. I remember that. I saw the video of that. I reported earlier that there is no new injury or concern. White confirmed that. She's healthy, said White, adding, "We're not managing anything. This is just a back issue that we want to make sure we give the time to be ready." I also wrote that it was part of a strategic management plan for Clark, who missed all but 13 games last season due to several injuries. That was not to insinuate load management, but rather emphasize the precautionary measure given what she experienced last season. However, right, that absolutely is load management. That's the thing. That is load management. And I said this in a video at the time. Stephanie White saying she's not injured, right? She's healthy and we're not managing anything, but she's not playing. That's load management. You have a healthy player and she's not playing. That is I shouldn't say a healthy player because she could be the 12th player on the bench who doesn't play anyway, right? But you have a healthy starter who's not playing. That is 100% load management. Absolutely insane that we are even talking about this. It is crazy. Clark back on her back health for May 26th. I don't think it necessarily started at a certain point. I think it's just been over the course of the last year where I've been understanding my body more. No, I think there's been I won't I'm not gonna go into the whole, well, maybe they're targeted and doing it on purpose, but I think the staff also for the Indiana Fever is completely incompetent. Again, just from someone with experience in working with athletes. My outside perspective when I look at Caitlin Clark's entire career until we got this staff in with Stephanie White and how it looks now, in a best case, I'm going to say it is incompetence by the staff in how they are training Caitlin Clark, which is leading to injuries. That is my opinion based on knowledge and experience. Okay. And the Indiana Fever don't want stuff like that out there because who knows? Maybe that's where Scott's going next. Maybe he's going to start looking into this stuff with the injuries and be like, hey, you know what? We have a problem here. Caitlin continued, I think it's finding the balance of when I maybe don't need to be as aware, maybe when I'm maybe a little too over aware. So still working through that, but I don't think it's anything of concern. The Fever took specific issue with the phrase strategic management plan. That's their right. However, it is consistent with what the team has been publicly emphasizing since last season, keeping the big picture in mind and taking a cautious approach. The next day, the Fever received a warning from the WNBA regarding their injury reporting procedures, according to a league source. And for the 3 games since, Clark has been listed on the injury report back probable. Yeah, absolutely crazy. So we have the Indiana Fever organization being completely and utterly incompetent, botching, bungling everything about Caitlin Clark and her availability for that game. They got backlash. They broke league rules. And their reaction is to take the longest tenured beat reporter for the Indiana Fever, who did his job, and in this case, I would say did his job very well, did exactly what he was supposed to do, and they revoked his credentials because of it. Now, keep in mind, when I went on my little rant about the old guard WNBA women being running the Indiana Fever from top down, Lynn Dunn, Amber Cox, Kelly Kroskoff, Stephanie White. Look at all their histories, all the same, right? All of the same. And you get this because what I'm connecting it to is don't forget about Christine Brennan, one of the most accomplished female reporters, journalists, media people, however you want to describe her, around, right? She was one of the first. Christine Brennan, right? They love to talk about the WNBA and girl power and women and all this stuff. It's on the Christine Brennan is that person in sports media. She broke so much new ground for women, right? Like she is the exact type of person that the WNBA should be celebrating all of the time. And yet when she did her job and asked the simplest of questions of Dejanay Carrington, when Dejanay Carrington purposely stabbed Caitlin Clark in the eye with her super long fingernails, Christine Brennan dared to ask her about that. And what did the league try to do? They tried to get Christine Brennan's credentials revoked. Remember that? This is the Indiana Fever, just a smaller version of the WNBA when you look at who is in charge. And their reaction was to do the same damn thing when a reporter was doing their job. And he continues, people can disagree with wording or interpretation. That's part of the relationship between team and the media. What should not be in dispute is that the reporting was sourced, that it was updated as new information became available, and that readers were given the full context available at the time. 100% true. That is very, very well worded. The Indiana Fever. And here's the problem, right? What beat reporter now is going to dare ask the questions that they should be asking? Again, we can go through a list of things Stephanie White lied about, like the rotations and taking Caitlin Clark out 3.5 minutes into the first quarter was normal. First of all, that's never normal with your superstar. It's not normal when you have 8 points at that time and Caitlin Clark has accounted for all 8. Stephanie White lied. No one has asked her about it. And you think anyone's going to ask her now? Because that's the thing. I promise you, if the beat reporters whose credentials can be revoked by the Fever aren't going to dare ask any of the questions that they should ask. The Indiana Fever is censoring the media. Let's be very, very clear about that. The Indiana Fever is censoring the media so that they can do these awful things that they are doing and they can run this organization into the ground as if they were Chairman Mao, as if they were Joseph Stalin, as if they were Pol Pot, as if they were Castro, as if they were Mussolini. Oh man, didn't end well for them. I'm just saying. But yeah, man. Again, I was talking with Rhodes, Black and White Sports, and Ben at BDP. And I think Ben said it. I don't know if you all said. I don't think I ever showed it on here. This graphic I made because of the three of us, the dark side, and yeah, he mentioned that he's like, wow, who would have thought? Because we were all in agreement on being fair about this and how we reported that. Who would have thought that it would be the dark side coming to the defense of regular media, especially an Indiana Fever beat reporter. But again, it's what we do. And Scott Agnes didn't deserve this. Scott Agnes did his job. This is disgusting behavior. This is tyrannical behavior. This is old guard WNBA women, woke activists all up in their feels, completely butthurt because the media exposed them for who they are. Scott exposed them for their incompetence. Scott exposed their absolute botched handling of this situation with Caitlin Clark. It is disgusting. It needs to be reprimanded. Herb Simon, I don't know, maybe, or I guess his son, because I don't think Herb's doing anything, but Fever ownership needs to get off their ass and fire everybody, the Indiana Fever. And no, I am not kidding. No, I am not being over the top. I am not overreacting because this is just another thing in a long list. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't give a crap about putting together a winning roster. I mean, I didn't even go into the whole friends and family plan with how they put together a roster. Again, we can go down a long list. They do not know what they're doing. and they're going to try and destroy anyone they can who calls them out for it. I do hope Scott lands on his feet. I don't know where he's going to go with this. I don't know if he's trying gonna I don't know if he's going to try and be completely independent, latch on with someone else, if he's just going to abandon covering the Indiana Fever. He's been covering them for a while, so it's kind of really sucks for him with the timing when you look at all the attention that they get, because he was basically covering it when no one had any idea that an organization or a franchise was even in Indiana. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. I will talk to you later.